All right, looks like we're going live. Okay, so if this thing isn't lying to me, we are live. So, all right, let's see here. Do I have everything up? So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name is Rich Charpentier. I'm the channel host, and here we are on a Monday live stream. So, we're going to be talking about a couple of small job things and a couple of other items as well. So, we've got several mini topics today. Let's see over here. Ah, there we go. Good morning. So I already have a couple people on channel. Thanks for stopping in this early in the morning, everybody. For people new to the channel, my name is Rich Charpentier. We usually talk about building your small drone business or imaging business. So drones and 360s and video. 2021, we're going to be covering more. In 2020, it was mostly just about the drone side of things. So, but we're expanding here and growing the channel and hopefully growing the audience and hopefully giving all of you guys some good information as well. So one of today's topics, but before we get to that topic, I thought we'd have a little fun this morning. So I'm just checking that everything's set up okay and that we're not having the stream issues that we had last week. Sorry about that. That was just really weird network connection stuff going on. Today, the network says that it's much happier, so that's fantastic. So before we get going, for those of you who are regulars to the channel, you know that we picked up a Mac Mini M1, a week and a half ago or something on that order. It's still over here on the side because I'm finishing up one more project. I've got everything the way I want it. Once I finished up that client project, which has been kind of a busy project, then we'll be swapping machines around. But in the meantime, I thought you'd like to take a look into the smaller studio. Gosh, I was hoping with this move over here it would be a bigger studio. And Bruce, thank you. So no streaming issues. Yeah, it's looking good today. It was really weird last week. It just kept going in and out. So all right, here we go, the new studio setup. So I will make mention of a couple things. So in the corner there is the new BenQ monitor, and that's being used with the Mac Mini, which is right over here. And as you can see, I don't have any cable ties or anything yet because we're not finished and settled here, but can't wait to get everything wrapped up. I think that's something with me in my old telecom days. I always like to see all the cable bundles wrapped up nice and tight. You will notice, so we have a Lume Cube over here that's actually right up here, looking right into it and blinding myself. And over on this side, we have a newer light. Right after I moved in here and I did a couple of new videos over here, my other newer, not only did the bulb blow, but the housing blew. So I had both lights set up and it was a pop bang that you wouldn't believe. And so I was down a light and I decided, hey, I'll take the Lume Cube that I've been using outside. So I got one light over here, one light over here. And the Lume Cube's doing a great job. I've got it at 50%. And you know, it says that it's got about 2 hours of time, which is great because last week I was actually using that on location for doing some interviews with folks. Other things that you'll see in here, so we've got a small green screen. I've got a larger one packed away as well. This one seems to be doing all right. Me down here on camera with the green screen. We do have a little corner where there's just a slight bit of the wall showing through, but it's working okay. Also, you'll notice that I've got a C stand here. So when I used to have my gallery in Prescott and studio area, this C stand was for some of my main lights when we were doing portrait work years ago. So I've dragged that C stand through everything. It was sub $200 and what a great thing. And that C stand is what's holding up the webcam right now so that I can actually get it over the computer monitors. So you see the iMac here, and then you see a little, what is this? It's a little Samsung. That screen is not color calibrated. It's good for video games. It's also good for putting a bunch of stuff off to the side when we're doing the streams here. So there we go. And then you see the softbox for the newer light as well. So that's round one, and then let's take a look at it from my normal perspective, which is sitting behind everything. So there we have the little live stream camera with the C stand. There's the Lume Cube over there. Also the stand for my Yeti, which we're not using again today. We are using the Rode Go Wireless or Wireless Go, whatever they call it. So let me know. I think I've got everything dialed in there for the audio for everyone now. And I don't think Corey's on here because usually Corey is the one who has the low output. So I wanted to see if this was doing better for him. But so there we go. We've got the office, and let's go ahead and close that one down. So getting settled in, it's taken a little bit of time to get settled in here, but yeah, it's starting to be home, or at least a place to stay for now. All right, let me see here. There we go. I just want to pull up my notes for today. And so we had a couple of items for today. Zoom in 2020, and then me asking if I am an end user license agreement. Some studio and workflow changes. And good, thanks, Michael. I'm glad it's sounding good. Thanks, Bruce. I always like to make sure that I'm not blowing anybody's eardrums out, or I'm not talking so soft that you just can't hear me. So today's cover, small jobs can turn into bigger jobs. We'll get to that one last. But the first one that I want to talk about today is Zoom in 2020 and Zoom in 2021. Last year, I spent a lot more time on teleconferences with clients than I ever have before. When I do client web work, I actually usually will do recordings with the clients so that I can make tutorials for them to pass along to them afterward. And that is fantastic. It's a great tool. My customers love it. It also helps me out as the person working with them, because I have a recording of the topics that we discussed, what we did touch on, what we didn't touch on. And, if I need to follow up, if I can't remember something because we had an hour-long conversation, I can hop back to my Zoom meeting. So let's pull up here. So this is just a quick little, oh, nope, that's my live stream one. And there we go. All right, we'll minimize the live stream window. So, and I hang on to some of the Zoom meetings. So I just had a meeting with a client last week and labeled that one. But each of these, you can actually go in, rewind, see what you're doing on screen, see what you're talking about with the customers. And that's fantastic. And it's useful to the customers, especially since I send them these videos along afterward. So I just had one client over the weekend get in touch and say, hey, could you do some more tutorials about my website? And yes, I can, for a fee, of course. Now, the reason why I bring up Zoom is because Zoom helped me out last week, and I don't keep all of my Zoom recordings afterward. Once we're wrapped up with a job, I clear those out. But last week, in talking with one of my clients, and she does watch this channel occasionally, so I'll probably hear from her later. But so I'm going to pick on somebody for a minute. And this stuff happens across the board. So if you're doing drone flights, if you're doing web work, if you're doing standard photography for folks, maybe real estate, it's always good to have your conversations that you have with your customers. Using Zoom is a great way, or writing up a synopsis of what you discussed and what you agreed on. Because last week, one of my clients who I'm helping to build a site, we're not building the whole site, they are doing some of the work, so we're giving them some of the training. And last week, we ran into a snag on their website in e-commerce. They wanted a couple more options for shipping and handling for some of the products that they sell. And so we had reviewed this, and when they first got in touch back in November, I gave them some options as to what they should use. I told them that some items are going to be different, WooCommerce to NextGen Gallery to other galleries, and that they really needed to take a look through and a read through about what's going to meet their requirements. Now, a lot of the time, clients, you'll write up a contract with them, and then they'll come back and they'll say that they want 5 more things. That's why you have a contract, because you agreed to a certain number of things. So last week, this client was unhappy that they didn't have more shipping and handling options. And as we were talking about it, I said to them, I actually went back to a November and December video set where we were discussing this, and I suggested to them very clearly I would check out these 3 plugins, these 3 applications, and make some decisions from there. Take a read through what they do and don't offer, because it's right there in their support documentation. So last week, the client acted very surprised that we were missing a couple of options for their shipping and handling. And so I said to them, I can resend you that video set that we talked about in November and December, because initially there was a little bit of tension toward me. And let's take a look over. What format compression do you send the Zoom recordings to the clients? Well, Corey, I'll tell you what, the Zoom meeting, so let's take a look. And right out of what Zoom does for me, we had a 64 meg call. It was a little over a half an hour on this particular one. It's only 64 meg .mp4. So this was Zoom making the decisions. I went with their stock decisions. And let's just pop this up. My client's okay with me popping some of the stuff up. I'd explained to them about us doing classes and things. So you're seeing the actual, here's the still video frame right here for setting up their gallery. And let's pop over here. So, I mean, we're not looking at a lot of bandwidth here. 64 megs is really nice. So Zoom does go through some kind of little compression afterward, compacts your video a little bit for you. So I've never had, let's just take a look in these. Okay, 209, and what was that? Okay, so yeah, right at the end of December, so I know who that is. So that was over an hour-long conversation. And what I do afterward for them normally is I'll Dropbox the videos for them so that they have it handy for themselves. So, not huge so long as it's readable. The biggest thing for the clients for their usage is that oftentimes we'll be working on web pages together or setting up their gallery or doing something else like that. And they just like to have them sent to them. I also have a different YouTube channel that's completely private. Nobody can find the links, so I'll put them up there too. A verbal contract is not worth paper that's not written on. Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. You do have to have a contract, and that's the biggest thing. But having the videos where we're talking to the client is also helpful because you can say to that client, if you've forgotten this part, go back to minute 20 and take a look at that. That's where we discuss that part. But yeah, always the written contracts are the best way to go. And handshake deals never go so well. I've had a couple handshake deals over the years that cost me greatly. So we do want something written up, but now you've got a second line of defense, I think, with Zoom. And so I do notify the clients, hey, we're recording this. I'm going to provide you a copy. And they get excited about that because they have reference material. But also in that, you can hear quite clearly what we do and do not discuss and what we settle on. So with this particular client, we were getting things set up. And so, like I said, they were unhappy at some of the shipping options on it. And they were asking things like, could we get a custom programmer in? One of the reasons why we use plugins on WordPress is cost savings and also development savings, which is cost savings. So these canned plugins help us usually achieve most of what we want to achieve, but there's always something that comes up that, oh, I wish that it could do this too. And that becomes a problem sometimes. So you've got to remind the clients, and in the case of this client, that moves me on to the next part of my topics, which was, am I a EULA? And that came out wrong, but I kind of felt like I was the end user licensing agreement last week. What I mean by that is that none of us read them. So let's go over here and let's minimize this. And I just grabbed a couple of things. So, hey, it's a live stream, so taking a little different. Yeah, there we go. So when we were discussing things last week, it came to pass that I learned some things that my client hadn't said to me. So when I had sent them forth to go read about several different plugins and making their choices for how they're going to ship stuff out and things, the client said to me, yes, I'm going to go read this. And a week later, we had our next conversation where they selected some of the tools they were going to use, including the one that we had settled on. And so in talking last week, when they realized, hey, we don't have all my shipping options, I said, well, when you were doing that review a couple of weeks ago, that was right in there. I actually sent links to some of the questions they had because I wanted them to read through them. And that's when my customer admitted they hadn't read a single thing and they're just going with it, which reminds me of all online end user license agreements. How many times have you said okay to every single Apple prompt, Facebook prompt, Google prompt? We're all guilty of it. We all skip past the end user licensing agreement and we just say yes because we need to get going, which is exactly what my customer did to me. So turns out they didn't read anything over that weekend, and so funny enough, when we were talking last week, I sent them their live stream wrap up, and I said, you know, they had a little chuckle out of it because in the wrap up, I even said, if you go back to this date, rewatch that video, you'll find it right there where we were discussing your options and where you selected them. But so oftentimes with clients, be it drone work or web work or, you know, shooting a wedding, you know, we've done those. God, the headaches with that. And sometimes the misunderstandings with clients, um, you know, like doing a 12-hour wedding does get expensive. But we survived that one. But so, yeah, I was kind of feeling like, hey, I'm the end user license agreement that got skipped, like so many of us do. So we did have a laugh out of it in the end. The client was a little disappointed with the lack of a few shipping options, but we have found a couple of things to do workarounds for them. So that's great. But Zoom was right there for me since we're doing these recordings and these tutorials and our discussions, and sending that Zoom along to the client afterward kind of dialed things back and actually brought them into a, you know, kind of laughing at themselves. I did let them know though, I said, you know, when I'm suggesting to you that you read through these things, there's a reason. And the client said to me, well, I'm not super technical. You know, I don't know everything about computers. And I said, this has nothing to do with the computers. This has to do with this product will allow you to do 5 things and you want to do 8 things. Is that 5 things good enough? You said yes to it. Okay, we're moving on. So, because otherwise we'd have to be doing a lot of rework, and the client doesn't want to do that because they do want to launch really soon. So, like I said, in the case of this one, we're not doing a full site build for them. We're doing some instructional, some tutorials, and some of the heavy lifting on some of the stuff that can be a little confusing. So we're not, you know, spending gobs of time on this one. And in the end, the client is looking to manage the site for themselves. So, and we'll see how that goes, because they also admitted to me, oh, well, I don't regularly check my website. One of their main issues on their old site was they were getting hacked a lot. They were using some very old technology. They weren't checking their website often, and they were having potential buyers get in touch with them to let them know that there were problems with their checkout process, and it was clear that they were getting redirected somewhere. So all of that's going to be taken care of. But one of the things I stress, if you're, you know, if you're building your drone business and you're doing your website, you need to check your site occasionally, okay? You can't depend on a user to let you know, hey, it looks like your site's been hacked or something. So you as the business owner, you as the site owner, you do need to regularly check your sites. We do ongoing maintenance for some of our clients, so they pay a yearly fee for us just to keep up with their security and other items, and it gives them some buffer to have us do some extra projects for them. And so we get that stuff done for them, but we also have other clients who want to take on management on their own. But when I have a potential customer say to me, sometimes I don't look at my website for a month or so, it might be the case that you need someone looking over your shoulder for you. So I also explained that to the client and said, this is, you know, you're going to need to maintain and manage this. You're going to need to come in and check the site to make sure that your sales information has been getting emailed to you, to make sure that you're not missing any potential buyers, to make sure that the latest updates are done on your site. And if that's too technical, if you think that a website is a set it up and forget it, you might be better off without a website. Because 1 or 2 bad customer experiences on your website could really kill your sales site. So that's also part of our coaching with the clients. And after I'm done with today's live stream, I'm actually going to be on with that customer for a couple hours today as we finish up some other setups and get them ready for some beta testing on their site before we swing things over. So we're just about in the home stretch. And you should figure we were just about in the home stretch since we were playing around with shipping and handling fees. So I'm just taking a look back over here to make sure I haven't missed anybody else's questions or comments. And so yeah, lesson of this, I think that the Zoom meetings are useful. Of course, just as Michael said over there on the chat window, final written contract is still necessary, but I think that this is a good fallback, and it came into play a lot during the fall for me for one of my clients that we were doing a huge overhaul on their website, basically rebuilding 39 pages of content, sales information, rental information, and the Zoom meetings were also great for me to go back and review after I was done and the customer, had given their request for the day. I just went right through that Zoom meeting to make sure I was hitting all the buttons and all the points that the customer wanted touched on. And that client actually got in touch on Friday too to thank me for some of the tutorials because it's made it easier on her for doing some new web pages. So like I said, we're still in the background for the heavy lifting for them, but we do allow them to do some of their own maintenance and updates and page building if they like to. And so this client went from I don't know anything about websites to now getting in touch with me about just some of the aesthetics of what she's building. So that's great. These tutorials do work out well. And let me see here. Okay, not missing anything else. Let me take a look at my next one. So the weirdness in my title, I was trying to be tongue-in-cheek. Bottom line, hearing that my client kind of skipped past and didn't bother reading about the products they were purchasing just reminded me of how we all treat end user license agreements. So read it. Read it before you say okay. Let me see here. So the Mac Mini and the iMac swap out not done, but that should be wrapped up this week. The next big one, let's just pop something up nice in the background instead of, so we're just having a little 360 tour in the background while we're talking about our next one here. So small jobs getting bigger. So what do I mean by that? Several weeks ago, I got contacted by someone for a very simple drone flight, just a couple of minutes of my time. It was a very small job. I listened to them, I heard them out, and I said, yeah, we can do that. So we did this one small flight item for them. And that particular company, I don't think, is heavily going to utilize drone services or imaging services or anything. But, just having that in the back of my mind, I kind of ruled something out that I shouldn't have ruled out. Last week, that same client who I did the job for, they were super thrilled about it. They came back to me for a bigger job. They've got a large event coming up for their business in the near future. And they asked me if I could do a couple other services for them beyond just some drone work and some standard imaging. They wanted to do some interviews with employees, do some informational gathering and assembly, so that in the end they're putting together a nice presentation that I've been working on with them all last week. We've been working on this particular thing. And yeah, so I didn't write off this small client. It was a very simple job. It paid enough to get me outside to do the job, and that was a good thing because I do have a threshold of I won't go out the door for this much. But in the end, doing that small job several weeks ago and doing it exactly the way they wanted it and fulfilling their needs, when they started thinking about another project that didn't exactly mesh up with what we do here at AZ Drone, they still came back to us, and in corresponding with one of the clients over the weekend, they're thrilled to pieces. So we're probably going to be doing some additional work for them as well. So we're going to get this project wrapped up this week, but the client's representative was telling me of a couple other plans they have going on, so we're going to be looking into that too. Ask all clients for a review, even if you're not going to be used again. Absolutely. And that's another big one that I stress heavily to all of my web clients. For those of you who are new to the channel, one of the other things we do, one of the things we specialize in is RV parks and resorts. I was a full-time Airstreamer for a decade, so we know RV parks, we know RV resorts really good. I've taken my Airstream back and forth across the country multiple times. I've camped in my Airstream from Maine to California, all the way up to Washington and Oregon, crossing the country so many times, staying in some pretty amazing places and some pretty wretched places. And, I say to every one of my web clients who's on the RV side to ask for the review. So don't just ask them as they're heading out the counter, hey, I'm glad you guys had a great time at our park. Also ask them to leave a review. And I've got one of my clients who religiously does that. She's got great rankings on Google, and so a lot of great referrals. She has a habit of chatting with her clients and telling them about all the great places they can visit while they're visiting her area, and she really engages with the customers. So by the time that the customers are ready to head out, she's had a lot of conversations with them. They've already had a good time, and she just remembers to ask for that review after. And I do the same thing. I do ask for the reviews with clients, and sometimes you have to chase after them. So it's really funny. Usually when clients are super happy, they forget to go give you that review. It's only when you've got something bad to say that people rush right out and do it. But so yeah, Corey, you're spot on. Asking for that review. And when you're working with these clients that maybe aren't an exact fit into your business, there are other opportunities, and you just have to ask them about them, or leave the door open in your conversations while you're talking about project number one. What's going on with projects 2, 3, and 4 that you guys have going on. Because, like I'm saying, so this small job that happened a couple weeks ago has already turned into a much larger job, a job that really helps further us for our goals, our monthly goals. And it seems like we're going to see a couple more jobs out of it as well. So that's fantastic. And so in the background, by the way, just so that we don't have this boring static screen all the time, I've just got one of the 360 tours up, and just popping it up. That's the 360 tour is actually going along with the fact that I've launched a new free short video over on AZ Drone's Teachable site. So I might as well pop over there for a sec. And so I had this one set up. But we are growing some more courses over on the Teachable site. And we have now included, I did a simple overview to 360 tours with drones. Because what I'm finding is we have a lot of opportunities utilizing our drones to build some really interesting tours. But I think when people think of 360 tours, they immediately go to real estate and realtors. Well, yes, we can do real estate and realtors, absolutely, and that's awesome. And if you're building a base like that, good on you. But there are other opportunities. So one of our sister sites that we built just for fun is Explore Prescott. And last year we started doing a lot of virtual tours in the area. This year we're going to pick that up. We've already got a list of new 360 tours that we're going to do aerial and ground-based. So we've got this freebie one up there. If you haven't thought too much about doing 360s with your drones, but you are interested in 360s, this one's a broad overview. And it was short enough. I said I'm just going to have this one be a free one, and maybe it'll inspire some ideas with my audience as well. And just looking over to make sure that I'm not missing anybody else. And as always, everybody, I'm glad that you take the time to hang out on the Monday mornings. I've still been thinking about, should we do them on a different day? So please, in the comments or in the show note or comments below or the live chat, if there's a better day for you, let me know. Here in Arizona, part of the year we're on Mountain Standard Time, part of the year we're on Pacific Time because we don't change our clocks. So that's one other thing, trying to figure out, best time of day for everybody. But so, yeah, so we did this freebie one. I've also recently launched the Beginner's Ricoh Theta Z1 class. For those of you who have gotten that awesome 360 camera, that class I go through all the settings on the app. We also talk about setting up the camera not in the app. So you can do a lot of setups just on that tiny little camera with 4 strange little buttons. And then finally, we also launched a Building 360-degree virtual tours with EULA. And I had meant to, and if you're a regular to this channel, you already know, I had meant to start doing one of these types of classes on a regular basis for other 360 viewers as well. So I am a EULA user, and I will be going through other ones as well. But I started getting into Theasys just a couple of days ago, again, because I was very impressed with the interface of Theasys for 360s. So many tools. They have so many awesome tools that you don't see on the other 360 hosting platforms. I mean, it is absolutely amazing how many tools Theasys includes. But as I started working with it again to start building up some course materials, I had to stop myself. And I had to stop myself because it struck me why I decided not to purchase Theasys, and I did go with Kula. And it was actually the presentation. So the image quality on Theasys just didn't come close to the Kula. In that video that I already put up here on YouTube just a couple of days back on why I didn't select Theasys, maybe looking at it through the video screen, you know, rendered through again, it doesn't look as bad to you, but the color quality between Kula and Theasys was pretty dramatic. The pixelization on the edges, the additional noise in the images, if people zoomed in on some of those tours, it's going to look pretty messy. And the thing is, you know, I was using the same files that I used for my other tour, so comparing them side by side, and it brought back to me why we chose not to use Theasys. So I'm going to keep tabs on them, though, because the tool set they have is incredible, and they really offer a lot. It's feature packed. That's the best way to say it. But there's something going on with that 360 engine where on the same browser, be it Firefox, Safari, or Chrome, on the same browser, the color differences were just side by side, no comparison. The Kula colors were better. The Kula image was sharper and cleaner. So there we go. So I will be doing other courses. Some of them will be freebies on YouTube or on Teachable. You know, some of them, if they're longer ones where we get heavily involved, then that would probably be one of the sales ones. But in the end, what they're going to be is dependent on all of the features and the functionality of those 360 viewers. So, and another one that we're going to be doing is Piano 2 VR, so I'm looking forward to that one. I had played with that last year, and I'm very much looking forward to that because that's one of the higher end ones. By the way, if you're wondering where we're looking around, I've mentioned on this channel multiple times, Prescott, Arizona's got a lot of city parks. Monday morning is fine. Okay, good. I'm glad, guys. That works well. What you're looking at right now is one of the many city parks here in Prescott, Arizona. And I shot this last year with the Theta Z1 on the auto HDR mode. So this is one of the kids' playscapes called Kayla's Hands. But we actually go through this entire park area. It's a massive complex where they've got this roller rink. So they've got roller hockey and they've got roller derby, the seating over here. They also have so many baseball fields around here. So this is one of the larger complexes, but there are some right in town, downtown Prescott. So as I was saying before, we are planning on doing some more virtual tours in the area. You know, we still have the virus that shall not be named going on, and a lot of people are still planning their trips and vacations outward in the future. And I think that these virtual tours are helpful to them because it actually does give them an idea of the places they want to go to. Not only have we done these virtual tours on our own displays, we're also using the Google Street View as well. I mentioned recently we are over 36,000 views on the Goldwater Lake. I just don't know why that one's so popular, but it is. But so on the Google Street Views, we've just got a lot of viewership coming in, checking out Goldwater, Watson, Willow. So we know that it's reaching people, and we know that these 360s have some value for both those folks as well as potentially, you know, some of the businesses in the area, especially, you know, the businesses in the downtown area. So that's one of the things that we also talk about in that 360 class, the freebie that I just talked about, was you know, don't just confine yourself to realtors. If you've got some amazing places like this, if you've got things to show off in your neighborhood or surrounding communities, get out there, have a little fun. It gives you some drone flight practice. It gives you some shooting practice. It keeps you, you know, it keeps you sharp. So there you go. But so I figured background, let's have a couple of 360s for fun, and you know, these were enjoyable shots, and then you can see me on screen, and I am going to be doing something new about that, so not having me on screen. The Theta Z1, I have been playing with some of their other plugins, so we're going to be doing an addition on one other shooting mode that actually works out well and can save you from destroying your 360 camera. So before we wrap up, I'll give you guys an honest story. Video quality is going down. Okay, let me take a look over there really quick. Actually, let's close this one out and maybe minimize this one. So let's take a look and see about that. All right, it's saying that it's okay right now, Corey, but it could be that I had those couple of 360s. So here's a sad, embarrassing, and true story that occurred 2 years ago. So I've been interested in 360 work, and in addition to my drone work for a couple of years, drones are what introduced me to 360 imaging and got me to start playing with it. So the other year, I bought one of the Insta360 1X's. Great little camera. It's sitting off camera in one of my cases over here. And fantastic for having a little fun and trying out 360 video, so I liked it a lot. And I actually went into an RV campground, a park, to do some 360s. And the park owner was pretty excited about it, one of the parks that we work with regularly, so I was just having a little fun, and then was going to show them the presentation, see if they wanted to include it on their website. So while I was working through all the sites and things, this is Arizona, and it gets breezy here. And high elevation, it gets even breezier here. So we're coming into the spring season, which means I'm going to be looking at all of my weather apps and things before I go fly the drone at all, because we get some amazing winds here, some absolutely frightening winds at times. And so while I was out shooting for this RV park, I was using the Insta360 1X's monopod, which is not a super quality construction monopod. So I think you see where we're going. I set the camera down on the monopod. I had already shot a bunch of sites. I was moving myself out of the way so that I wasn't showing up in the images, and that's when a wind hit. And that monopod went flying. So the camera still works. However, on the back lenses for the camera, there's a couple of really great scratches from hitting some gravel. So I basically ruined my 1X. I can still get away with doing some 360s with it. I have to go in and brush out all of those scratch areas. But yeah, light monopod, Prescott wind, hurt, hurt 360 camera. So I am never going to make that mistake with my, my Theta Z1, and that one's ingrained in my mind. We've all broken equipment. We've all cried over the equipment as well. So with the Theta Z1, one of their tools, let's close this down, and let's go grab, there we go, Ricoh. There we go, the Ricoh plugin store. So in my most recent class on the Theta Z1, we actually talk very in depth about the dual fisheye plugin. There are a lot of other plugins from Ricoh and from third parties, and one of the plugins that I played with a little bit, but now I've been playing with a good deal over the past few days, is time shift shooting. So what happens with this, and I'm going to actually test this in the extreme. So the time shift shooting helps keep you, the photographer, out of the image. So what happens with this particular mode is you're looking at the little menu on the screen, you've got your buttons on the right hand side, and the lens out away from you is the front lens. When you use the time shift shooting, what it's going to do is shoot only one lens at a time. So first it's going to shoot forward, and then it puts a little message down on the bottom, and it says to me, hey, go ahead and move out of the way. It doesn't say that, but something like that. So I go around to the other side of the camera, it takes its second shot, it seams these things together, and it seems to be doing a really nice job in well-lit areas. So I set it to the automatic HDR mode for a little bit of testing, and in that testing, I have found that this is not bad at all. So I think if you were in darker areas, it might become problematic because, these 360 cameras are balancing, the white balancing, exposure, and everything all around the camera. So now we've split the camera in half, and we're having it take this side and then having it take this side. I think there's some room for some problems, but I haven't hit those problems yet. So we'll be seeing an announcement on the live stream and probably over on the Patreon channel when I pop this up so that you can go check it out as well. One of the interesting things about it that I found is if you're looking at the screen right here, this might not look too informative to you. But so it looks very much like the Ricoh Theta app. So the Theta app you can use to control your camera for some of the simple modes. However, we're not in the app on this one right now. If you look over here, just take a look at this right here. I'm circling around it. Take a look at the top. It has a website address. I am in the Safari browser. So when you launch this plugin, this is one of the things, the plugins don't perfectly integrate with the Ricoh app. So what happens with this one is it launches Safari for you. It basically shows you the Ricoh Theta app view, but you're not, right now, you're on your web browser on your smartphone. So that's the 192.168.1.1. That's the IP address for the camera. So my phone's connected to that. So I can see what's going on here, and I can actually take the shot from this. But when I'm done, there's a little end button over here. When I hit the end button, it takes me back into the Theta app, and it takes me back in where the plugin started. So at least it's returning me home. But it was a little surprising because you can tell there's something going on here. And then I looked at the top of the bar and I said, oh, geez, it's the browser. So that's kind of interesting that the plugin actually launches your browser, and then you're kind of operating off of your own internal web page. So we'll do some more on that, and we'll go deeper into it in an upcoming video here. Let me take a look over here, Michael. So this opens the possibility of using lens. Michael, all right, you're freaking me out. That's awesome. That's one of my thoughts. So what I'm going to be doing this week, all right, I'm not going to surprise anyone. I'm heading over to one of the retail centers here in Prescott. It's a historic retail center. It's 3 stories. The interior is very interesting. There's a lot of different businesses. Most of the businesses are on Whiskey Row and Gurley and a couple other streets. But so I want to go into the Bashford Courts because I've always liked the look and feel inside that building with the 3 stories. It's got its little elevator and stuff. And so I'm going to bring the Theta Z1 in there. So this is kind of for grins and giggles for myself, and also to add to our downtown Prescott tour that we've already done. But yes, I'm thinking that maybe a studio light could be utilized in this, that there might be some opportunities for enhancing your lighting. And now on that app, since I'm not zoomed all the way in here, my apologies for that one, but on that app in here, we've got a first self-timer and a second self-timer, so we can set that. So maybe if we had to move things, these are thoughts. But so yeah, Michael, that's part of what I was thinking. I was like, what if I used a static studio light instead? But the bigger thing is, I just want to try those interiors first, kind of push the boundaries, because there's going to be some pretty heavily shadowed areas and some pretty bright areas with lighting of different retail establishments in there. So I'm gonna play around with it, see how I feel about it, and then see, could we do something with a little bit of static lighting if we had to. So we're not popping flashes here with this, that's for sure. There's nothing in the Ricoh right now that would allow us to do that. That would be neat. But and it's also going to give me an idea of the work if I'm going to shoot in there, if the Theta Z1 is going to be up to par for it, or if I should think about bringing the 7D in instead, and using the DSLR instead. So that's going to be something upcoming as well. Let me take a look over. Yeah, I removed the monostand so I can erase myself. Yeah, and you can do that in the pilot with the retouch. And I take myself out of things and we clean up other little junk items, of course. But this one was just interesting to me because of me breaking my 360, the 361X. But it's also interesting to me because let's say you're in populated places. We see a lot of great videos from other YouTubers and folks out there, tours of beautiful places. And oftentimes with the 360s, they're trying to get out of the way of the camera. And if you put yourself a couple 100 feet away from your camera on a cool little slick monopod, anybody can walk along and shoop, take that away and kiss your camera goodbye. So the other reason why I'm interested in this time shift shooting is the fact that this might be able to keep me much closer to my camera so that I'm not worried about the camera walking away. On the weekends in downtown Prescott, with a lot of the events and things that go on here, the area is mobbed. Wall-to-wall people on the courthouse square. We'll see how we do this year, with with that virus. But so leaving a monopod or tripod standing around while you're trying to capture a 360 or do something else, and you standing far away from it, I'm a fairly trusting guy, but not that trusting. I don't want somebody walking away with a $1,000 camera on me. So that was the other thought that I had with this time shift shooting. If we need to stay close by our cameras for when we're setting up some of these 360s, can this time shift do it for us? And even in a situation like I just mentioned, on a busy city street, is that time shift shooting going to be good, or is there going to be some really big discrepancies between the front and back because of the timing and maybe movement of people on a sidewalk? All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap this one up for today, 8:45. Sorry for going a little over. So look forward to seeing something about the time shift shooting in the near future. And this week, we're also going to get out and do a little bit of drone work and a little bit of testing, because in a couple of weeks, we're going to be back on doing some 2D models again for a customer. So, and cross our fingers that it's not too windy of a spring, because starting into March, getting the drone up in the air is always interesting around here. Okay, everybody, have an awesome start to your week, and we'll see you next week on another live stream. Keep your eyes open. There will probably be another new video or two this week popping up as well, especially on that time shift shooting. And you guys are very welcome. As always, thanks for hanging out for a bit. I'm glad that you guys take the time to stop in. And for those of you who can't do it while we're live streaming, there's always the archive, so you can always rewatch it afterward. All right, I'm off for the morning. I got to go get ready to do a Zoom conference call with a client. Have a great one, everybody. In the stream.